Hello and welcome to Indian Road. We're bringing you this episode not from Concho or anywhere near there really, but the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge in southwest Oklahoma, more specifically the 40-foot hole. Named after the Wichita tribe, these mountains were most commonly associated with the Kiowas and Comanches. But you might be surprised to learn that the Cheyennes and Arapahos spent significant time in this area as well. Those four tribes are really tied together by tragedy as well, because it was around Thanksgiving of 1868 that the Cheyenne and Arapahoes were attacked near the Washita or the Lodgepole River in western Oklahoma. Just a month later, on Christmas Day, Comanches and Kiowas were attacked near this area at the Battle of Soldier Springs. It was part of a larger military effort to seek out those tribes and try to eradicate them. Speaking of tragedies like that, we traveled with the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes to Colorado just a few months ago to help right a wrong from the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864. There's a huge mountain just outside Denver named after John Evans, who authorized the Sand Creek Massacre. The tribes, along with Utes and other Cheyennes and Arapahos, other tribes around that area, have all been in support of the more appropriate name, Mount Blue Sky. Here's a look at that trip.
I've always told people this is our homeland. This is where we were from. This is who we were. And we still have a lot of tribal members up here today who make this their home. And we all enjoy coming up here. And one of the sad parts as we come up here is the name of Mount Evans. People don't understand the magnitude of Evans's destruction to our people.
The Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes recently traveled to Denver to discuss the renaming of one of Colorado's historic landmarks. Mount Evans, a 14,000-foot peak just outside Denver, is named after Colorado Territorial Governor John Evans, who oversaw the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864. This Denver meeting brought together many Cheyenne and Arapaho citizens, many of them direct descendants of those who died on that day in 1864.
So this is a happy day for all of us that were involved in the massacre. The stories that came out and the things that happened to all of our relations, our brothers, our sisters, our uncles, our aunties, our grandmas and our grandpas and our children. The mountain that we all knew as Mount Evans will be changed to Mount Blue Sky in honor of the people that were killed in the massacre.
The sound of frigid winds and an occasional car passing by is about all that disturbs a quiet winter here, about an hour west of Denver. Cheyenne and Arapaho Productions came to look for any evidence of the proposed name change. This is the road that leads to the summit of Mount Evans, up this way. It's closed for the winter. This is my first time here, and it is absolutely stunning. It's difficult for me to think of the name Evans associated at all with the beauty of this place. To me personally, the name Blue Sky would much better reflect the majesty that you see and feel when you are here. This name change has been somewhat controversial around Colorado and into Denver. We were able to speak with some folks who live close by and get their feelings on the issue. Does it really matter to you either way, or you think it's a good thing, bad thing?
Well, actually, I think it's probably a good thing because for a couple of reasons. One, it's gotten Native American tribes perhaps together, although I shouldn't presume that.
I think it's time. I think we need to look at our history and own up to, the horrors of our history and acknowledge that not all, Evans probably did lots of good things for us, but this land belonged to the Native Americans first, and I think it's fair.
I think it's good for us to sit and listen to you guys talk about some of the history that we share, some of which is painful and horrible.
I'm very much in support of it. I'm very much in support of, respecting the land that we're inhabiting and respecting where it came from, and certainly the people that were here long before we were.
Who's backing the progress to get it changed? Is it a political change? Is it a non-political change? Is it?
It's not controversial to me. I know that it was not named by the most positive figure in Colorado history or U.S. history, and so I'm all for the renaming. I lived up in Alaska for several years, and Mount McKinley was renamed Denali up there, and I was all for that. Wasn't ours to name in the first place.
Back in Denver, History Colorado's new Sand Creek exhibit invites visitors to learn the background causes behind the deadly attack and the uncomfortable truth of America's recent history.
People say cancel culture. They say you're erasing history. No, you're not erasing any history. The history's never been taught. The history hasn't been written. It's never been put down.
Those who attended were sent home with a special Mount Blue Sky song. It was composed by Saul Birdshead as a memorial song for Tina Stevens' little man's brother, whose Arapaho name was Blue Sky.
What the song is saying is that blue skies people are dancing. Just not my family, everybody's blue sky to us. We're from the stars. That's where we come from. So we're sky people. And that's where the blues is for everybody. All Arapaho and Cheyenne people. And Utes too, I didn't know that. So that's awesome. I'm just cloud nine right now.
It's a shameful past that we have to all recognize, and I know some people don't want to say that, yes, that's what happened, but that's what happened. It's kind of like the Holocaust. It happened. We can't deny it. It's happened. We see all these reflections of why it happened, but we just have to realize that there was a wrong done, and now we're trying to make everything right again.
Yo, camping buddy. Okay, you guys ready?
Dude, I thought you were driving.
I thought you were driving.
Oh, I never said I was driving.
I definitely can't drive.
Okay.
If you're high, just don't drive. It's illegal everywhere. If you feel different, you drive different.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org.
Native-owned businesses in Oklahoma used to be sort of a novelty. They were here and there, but not everywhere. All that has changed, though. These days, you can live in a home built by a Native construction company. You can eat at a Native-owned restaurant, and you can also quench your thirst at a Native-owned brewery in Oklahoma City.
The way I grew up in Little Axe, Oklahoma, in a mobile home with no money, the power getting shut off for a few days every month at the end of the month, and my remote control was a pair of pliers, so the idea of owning a business and being a CEO of a company, to me, was like I pictured some guy at the top of the Devon Tower over there in a tie and went to the best school and grew up with money and all that kind of stuff. And so it didn't seem feasible for me. And I think a lot of our tribal members grow up feeling the same way.
We have 30 barrel fermenters, which takes a double batch, and we have 15 barrel fermenters. That's a single batch.
Jake Keys is living a dream. It's a dream he shared for many years with his father, who was a man of many talents.
My dad was one of those guys that was just did everything himself with his hands. He taught me how to tie flies. He did leather work. He did construction, woodwork type stuff. But he also made his own beer, and he taught me how to do that. And then that was just kind of something I always loved.
It was that particular skill passed down to his curious son that set Jake on this new adventure.
Right here, we're in the main tap room area. We've got our bar over here with our 20 tap handles. We'll have a lot of open seating out here, TVs to enjoy the game.
Jake can tie all of his past few years of success right back to his dad's favorite homemade brew, an oatmeal stout.
Actually, I'd taken that beer in the nursing home and gave him a drink of it, and I got kicked out of the nursing home that day for 24 hours.
Shortly after breaking the house rules, Jake entered that oatmeal beer in a Dallas brewing competition, and it performed well. He arrived at the competition to the joyous news, only to be heartbroken just a few hours later.
All my friends that were down there, they left a voicemail while I was on the plane. They said, "Hey, you want a medal? You want a medal?" So I was all excited, couldn't wait to get the medal and take it to the nursing home for my dad. And then I get to my hotel room, and my brother called and said, "Dad just passed away." My dad was famous for saying one of these days, everything was going to happen one of these days, and I didn't want that to happen. When I go visit him in a nursing home, there's a lot of those people just full of regret, all the things they didn't do, and it scared the hell out of me. And so I decided I'm going to give myself a limit, and I'll have a brewery by the time I turn 40. And I turned 40 in October of 2018, and 3 weeks later we brewed our first batch.
The batches are much larger these days, but Jake's new brewing room and the crew are more than ready.
Man, cleanliness is next to godliness in a brewery. You got to clean everything really well. So otherwise you get contaminants and infections and off flavors in beers, which you definitely don't want.
And cleansing is a fundamental concept in this native-owned business.
And of course the sage, cedar, sweetgrass, whatever we use is so important to us. Comes from Mother Earth, provides cleansing for our lives, and will provide cleansing for this place. And the prayers we offer will bring joy, will bring happiness for folks who come and go to this place to celebrate, to enjoy life, to laugh, and to cry, and just to be present.
The story that non-natives need to hear about our culture needs to come from us. And if we don't start telling our story, if we don't stop keeping it a secret, then they're not going to ever understand and know who we really are, and that we're still here now. We're here. We're not a tragic black and white movie figure from the 50s, that we're not just the Trail of Tears. We are running successful businesses.
Keys wants his customers to share in his cultural background. Most of Skydance's signature brews have a native connection or story behind them.
Maybe you have to be kind of native to understand what fancy dance is, but obviously it goes back to powwows, and it's probably the most popular, most well-known dance in powwows. But that's our #1 beer. It's a New England hazy IPA. I used to be a tribal police officer for the absentee Shawnee tribe, and a lot of tribes call their police force Light Horse, and so I just wanted to honor that background and come out with a beer that honored the law enforcement for tribes. White Cloud is a Belgian wit, named after Chief White Cloud from my tribe, the Ioways. Just probably the most well-known chief in our history. So obviously wanted to at least have one beer that was tribal specific to Iowa people.
Skydance is not only a promise between Jake and his father, but an affirmation of the potential in other Native entrepreneurs.
I want other natives, especially youth, I want them to see somebody who came from where they come from, creating a company, creating a business, and living out their dream.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it. Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it. Gonna get it, gonna slip it, gonna cuff it. Check it, talk to doctor and share it. Gonna get it, gonna slip it, gonna cuff it. Check it, talk to doctor and share it.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. High blood pressure silently affects millions of Americans. Staying on top of your blood pressure is as simple as these 4 easy steps. Self-monitoring is power. Visit manageyourbp.org to learn more.
You know, Native American people have always had a great eye for fashion. But these days, you can see those fashions not just on the res, but in places like New York, LA, and Oklahoma City at the Teton Trade Cloth Show at the First Americans Museum.
Not trying to scare anybody away or anything like that, but it'll probably go till noon.
The day began with instruction in this room full of creative minds, minds that shared a common thread.
I do a lot of ribbon skirts, and then I do like one-offs, one-of-a-kinds, everything like that. You won't see another one that look alike. I was asked to teach a ribbon skirt class, teaching intermediate and advanced people how to sew ribbon skirts the way I sew them.
Usually my ribbon skirt is like super tight at the waist, and then like I look like a belle, so they're letting me like troubleshoot that.
I have mistakes like all the time, accept them, everything like that, because I'm not a perfect person, you know. So that's my teaching with the sewing, is that we're not perfect, as well as like in our beading, and so it's okay to have mistakes.
These women and their ribbon skirts weren't the only ones making a fashion statement this day.
The First Americans Museum partnered with Teton Trade Cloth and Prados Beauty to create the very first fashion summit for Teton here at the First Americans Museum. And we felt like this was just such a great location because Oklahoma and then Oklahoma City directly, we are the crossroads kind of America.
Drummers, make them dance.
TV next?
You're good, I'm with you.
Outside, traditional sounds met non-traditional art on a different kind of canvas.
I like it. It looks pretty good though. Because art is a dance in itself, I wanted to see what the dances look like, what art it makes on canvases. So today we're having different styles of dances. And you know, I wasn't sure how to do it, so today's really my trial and error. I have different techniques of keeping I want it to emulate the moccasins. So I have different techniques that we're trying today just to have different looks.
What do you think about it so far?
Man, I love it. I think it's, man, I couldn't be happier. I'm so excited.
Inside, spectators and families waited, while models and designers lined up for not one, but two different fashion shows.
First one we have is more for emerging designers that have maybe not shown their collection before. This may be their very first time to ever have professional models, emerging models, have the full hair and makeup, the whole fashion show.
Well, that's just almost all we have for this episode of Indian Road. We hope you've enjoyed us bringing it to you from the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge. And if you think it was tough for our crew to get us and our gear up to the 40-foot hole, you'd be absolutely right. And if you think, hey man, it looks hot out there, well, you're also absolutely right. Here's a quick look at what it took us to get up here. So enjoy that, and we'll see you next time on Indian Road. The Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge, more specifically, the 40-foot hole. Forget where I was going. These mountains have most commonly been associated with the Kiowas and the Comanche. Hello and welcome to... Woo, it's a hot one, gents. These days you can live in a home built. I saw it coming. I'm out here at the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge, yeah.